This video was brought to you by our book, Brexit the Colouring Book. Get 25% off with the code SAUSAGE. The link is in the description. Johnson's Conservative Party have had a rough week. They lost a by-election to the Lib Dems on Thursday, and now former Speaker John Bercow announced that he defected from the Conservatives to join Labour. So how did this all happen? Well, let's explain that right now. John Bercow has had a very interesting political career. He first entered the House of Commons back in 1997 as Conservative MP for Buckingham, and he truly was a Conservative. In his early years, he described himself as a rabid right-winger, firmly on the right of the party. Over the next few years though, he became significantly more centrist, and eventually in 2002, voted against the Conservative and in favour of a Labour bill which allowed unmarried gay and heterosexual couples to adopt children. This move cost him his position on the shadow front benches, but it didn't hold him down for long, with him winning Backbencher of the Year in 2005. Then in 2009 he was elected as Speaker of the House of Commons, having been quietly campaigning for the role for some time. This made him the first Jewish Speaker, the first to win by an exhaustive ballot, and the first not to wear a ceremonial gown in the Commons. Upon election to the role of Speaker, the MP in question is required to stand down from their party to hold the impartial and apolitical role. So from this point on, Bercow was officially no longer a Conservative, although he clearly was still very linked with the party historically. He wasn't always popular with his former party though, especially when it came to Brexit. Bercow would argue that he was a firm believer in the importance of the House of Commons, arguing that as the representatives of the people, Parliament should be involved in all decision making. And as such, he worked to block the government's attempts to act without Parliament's consent. However, those who oppose him would say that all he was doing was blocking the government, blocking Brexit, and frustrating the will of the people. Regardless, in part due to the growing scandal surrounding his impartiality, his decisions as Speaker and accusations of bullying, Bercow stood down from the role of Speaker in October 2019. It's customary that after resigning, every Speaker is offered a peerage in the House of Lords, normally nominated by their own party. But having fallen out with the Conservatives, Johnson didn't put his name forward, and actually even rejected his peerage when Corbyn suggested him. Since then, Bercow's published his autobiography, Unspeakable, in which he criticised Cameron, May and Johnson heavily, and described himself as a soft leftist. Having stood down from the party to become Speaker, Bercow wasn't officially a Conservative at this point, but due to his past, many assumed that he still aligned himself with the party. That was until an interview with The Observer this Sunday, in which he announced that he joined Labour a few weeks ago. The fireworks don't stop there in the Observer interview though, with him going in hard on his former party and its current leader, describing the Conservatives as reactionary, populist, nationalistic, and sometimes even xenophobic. He also derided Johnson, saying that despite his policies of levelling up, the Prime Minister has no thirst to better the lot of people less fortunate than he is. He also criticised the government for disrespecting Parliament, saying that there's growing, extensive and incontrovertible evidence that the government is disrespecting Parliament, telling untruths to Parliament and bypassing Parliament. Because of all this, he decided that the Tories need to be kicked out and that Labour are the only viable option. Now many, especially number 10, are likely to claim that this is all about revenge, him trying to get back at them for not giving him the customary peerage. When asked about this, Bercow denied it, saying that this isn't about revenge, this is a reflection of who I am and what I believe. It's up to you whether you believe him or not, but it does seem to be the latest in Bercow's gradual slide to the left, and something that might make people doubt the former Speaker's intentions. As I said in the intro, this all comes in the same week that the party lost the Cheshire and Amersham by-election to the Lib Dems, something that Bercow remarked on, saying, "I think what it tells us is that there is a very considerable distrust on the part of voters in the south of England. I think people in very large numbers are disappointed, in some cases disgusted, by what this government has done. It's worth saying that the government would disagree, saying that local issues like HS2 shaped the election rather than reflecting a national trend. But others, including the Lib Dems leader Ed Davey, disagree, saying that this is a sign that southern seats, which formerly lent blue, might be getting discouraged by the government's behaviour and rhetoric. Davey even suggested that this is evidence that a left-wing pact ought to be formed, allowing Labour, the Lib Dems, the SNP, the Greens and other parties to group together and beat out the Conservatives in seats where the left-wing vote is dominant but fragmented, something we discussed in another video linked below. Beyond left-wing pacts and Buckinghamshire, this week has been a rough one for the Conservatives. Whether you trust Bercow's motives and his statements or not, it's certainly damaging politically for his former party. And while it might not shift an election, they've certainly lost a powerful and infamous voice in British politics.
Get a grip of yourself, man. Calm. Take up yoga, you'll find it beneficial, man. You may be a cheeky chappy, but you're also an exceptionally noisy one. This is intolerable behaviour as far as the public... No, it's not funny.
Before we finish, if you want 25% off our book, Brexit the Colouring Book, then be sure to use code SAUSAGE. The new book features 25 total images from the entire Brexit story, taking you through the whole timeline and letting you colour and remember the history of the process. Find out more and order your copy by clicking the link in the description. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that is in the description.